You are literally the only person that knows what size clothing you wear.
Yes.
The most important thing is it says nothing about you as a person. Not a single thing of actual importance.
Welcome to the She Adventures New Zealand podcast, a space to find inspiration from the outdoors and life through candid conversations with women doing rad stuff outdoors across New Zealand. Here, we talk with everyday women adventuring. We unpack their stories on why they adventure, their triumphs, challenges, and discoveries about themselves. There's banter, tips and ideas, deep diving and insights as we talk about their stories of adventures around New Zealand. My hope is this podcast, the stories and the conversations, spark something within you and inspire you to get outdoors and to fill your happy tank with the things that matter, because life is better when you do. Hi, I'm Senka Radonich, creator and host of the She Adventures New Zealand podcast, and today's guest is Chloe Wickman. She's the proud owner of New Zealand's Happiest Activewear brand, Zeenya Clothing, and is all about bringing fun, colour and community together. Zeenya prides itself on bringing insanely comfortable activewear to the women of New Zealand. Now, Chloe's no stranger to taking on challenge. She's a lifelong runner and loves being in the outdoors. Based in Mount Maunganui, she's currently on a snack run buzz, which is making movement more joyful and attainable as life gets busy. So in this conversation, we talk about what exactly are snack runs and how they might just be the thing you need to fit more of the outdoors in on those busy days. We lean into the conversation that the size you wear says nothing about who you are as a person. We chat about her 3-day trail run throughout stunning New Zealand and getting her 70-year-old mum out on her first adventure race. So get ready for this inspiring, candid conversation. Hit the subscribe button and enjoy. Hey, Chloe, welcome along to the She Adventures New Zealand podcast.
Thank you, Senka. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're totally welcome. I'm really excited because you are officially the first person for season 2. So yeah, I couldn't think of a better person to have to kick it all off because of everything that you stand for, what your business does for women in the outdoors. And we also got to catch up in Wanaka for the Spirit of Women's Adventure Race. So it was just really nice to see you in person because we always interact a lot over the internet.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, real life friends. That's right.
I know. So
because we
it's so
missed
great.
seeing you in Rotorua. So yeah, it was fantastic to see you down in Wanaka.
Yeah, so I'm so excited to have you here and just to talk about all the great stuff that you do for women in the outdoors, and of course the cool adventures that you get to do for yourself and maybe some for you with your mum as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Cool. So for those people that don't know who you are and what your business is, why don't you give them a bit of a nutshell? Give us who you are and what you are in a bit of a nutshell.
Yeah, sure. So as you've said, I'm Chloe. I am the owner of Zeenya Clothing, and we make excessively bright, functional activewear. Our little tagline at the moment is New Zealand's Happiest Activewear, because the idea is that colour, comes into your life. You feel really good when you're wearing it. It can evoke different emotions as well, which I think is a really powerful thing. And so, yeah, that's kind of what I want people to feel when they put our clothing on. Like, I want people to feel happy, enthusiastic, maybe a little bit motivated, although, we could talk about motivation and the core of motivation for a really long time, but we probably won't go into that on this podcast. And I want people to put it on and go, oh yeah, I feel good, and that they want to move, because ultimately, like, our bodies are designed to move. We do feel better when we do, and it's that mental health aspect that I really want to dial in on at the moment. Anyway, for me personally, is like, I'm moving because it feels good to move, and my body and my brain feel really good after I have. So that's all part of that colour connection as well. So trying to bring people back into dressing to make themselves feel good. Like in New Zealand, we're pretty shocking, and especially as we head into winter, of just reaching for the black everything, because for most part, that's really all you can buy, and a lot of things. And I know that outdoor gear is getting way better in this space, and you're seeing a lot more different coloured jackets coming through, and and, different hats and glasses and running shoes, and not so much the tramping boots. I must say that's probably somewhere where it could do with a little dash of colour. But there's something about the power of colour to make people feel really good. So that's kind of what we're trying to do here with Zeenya is, have people feeling good, have them feeling good about moving their bodies and doing it in ways that make them really happy.
Yeah, I love what you said there about have people moving their bodies in the way that's good for them, because I think it's a really clear message that I noticed in a lot of the stuff that you talk about through all your channels and whatnot, that it's not about being an athlete or being the best or, smashing goals or crushing it, or, you don't have like a lot of that approach. You have a much more inclusive approach. I love the fact that your clothing, and just so everyone knows, I actually own 3 pair of Zeenya leggings. So, I love them because they're full of color and it's fabulous. So they do exactly what they do. They add a whole lot of fun. And it's funny because you go out on the trails and instantly you recognize someone who's got a pair of Zeenya leggings on because you're like Zeenya, and they're like, yeah, I'm a Zeenya girl. So,
and that's been part of the fun of the brand as well, is like, there's been this real community connection, and we see it both online and in person, and people meeting up for the first time, or, putting into our Facebook group being like, oh, who's doing such and such event? Does anyone want to come do it with me? Or, and there's this connection that people have. And I think one of the things I really love about the brand is that the people who are connected with us, like, they're just really good people. They're really great women, all doing their own thing in their own way, in a way that suits them. And I love that individuality of it all. But then we've given them somewhere to kind of belong as well, with the colour coming in.
Yeah, I think I've got at least half a dozen photos of women that I've seen out on the trails that we've gotten photos together because we're both wearing some sort of Zeenya legging at the time, like out on the road gains or just out on the trails and stuff. It's great.
Yeah. I think my best story that someone shared with us in the Facebook group was like, I don't know, maybe a year or so ago, and she was out for a run and someone yelled at her, nice seniors, and she heard nice senior and she thought that was rude, and then she worked out what that actually said. So if you are shouting at people, just be aware that there can be a little bit of a crossover.
Zeenya,
and we're not bringing people's age into this.
Oh, and you've said it a couple of times, it's about people moving in a way that's good for them. Because you do a 20-minute run, which I've
noticed. Oh yeah, my snack run.
Your snack run makes me hungry thinking about it, but
getting out doing activities for snacks.
I'm pretty sure I hike and mountain bike just so I can eat snacks. So yeah, I spend a lot of time planning what I'm going to eat when I'm just going out for my rides or my walks. So
I think that's half the fun though, it's not, I don't feel like I have to exercise to earn the food, but I love knowing that I've exercised and dreamt about the food while doing the exercise.
Yeah. So tell me about these snack runs, because I feel like there's something that, I think it's an amazing, I don't know, incentive strategy, whatever you want to call it. I love it because it's what you've talked about it is just makes it super accessible for anyone to do, to add into their day.
Yeah, I think so. To go back 2 steps, so a snack run, what I call a snack run, is basically a 20-minute run. So you go run in any direction for 10 minutes or a loop or whatever it does, whatever suits where you live. The idea is that you don't necessarily have to travel to go and do it. You don't have to go find the perfect trail. You don't have to go find the perfect view. Obviously run where it is safe, but it's a 20-minute reset for your body and your brain. And the idea is that you go out, push yourself as hard as you want, because sometimes speed is not the game. I think the snack runs came for me because I sort of lost a lot of my running mojo. So last year was training to pace a friend who was going to do the miler at Tarawera.
Yeah.
And then, of course, last summer, Tarawera got cancelled with the lockdown stuff, and it didn't go ahead. And I sort of was I was exhausted, and probably my training wasn't the best. I don't know what was going on, but I wasn't feeling it. And so I just ended up having quite a bit of a break from running and sort of, like still going out for walks and moving my body and stuff. But I really wanted, like, I do love running. Like, that's what I've done for a really long time. And so I wanted a way to kind of get back into it without there being a pressure or an expectation of time or like of distance initially, or being like, I have to do such distance under whatever time, or it's not worth it. Because the idea was that, like, people are like, oh no, it has to be half an hour. And I'm like, sure, if you've got the time, but also, like, anyone can do anything for 10 minutes. And then you're just going out for 10 minutes and back for 10 minutes. Like, we can do this. It's accessible. Most people can give it a go. It could be a snack walk, or it could be a snack workout if you've got weights at home or whatever it is. But the idea is to break up the day, or to start the day, finish the day doing something for yourself and moving your body, because your mental health for it is so much better.
I love it, because it really lines up. I talk a lot about getting outdoors, filling your happy tank, and doing the things that matter, because we're often giving a lot in our lives and our businesses, and as women we tend to give a lot, so we really do have to make sure that we're filling our cup up. And it's amazing what something like all your snack stuff, because now I'm going to have that in my head whenever I do something that I'm just like, I just need to get out and do something, or move in some way. And like you say, not necessarily for it to be massive or epic, or unless it's what you want to do. But it's great because it's just that nice, easy, accessible way to do things. It is really easy to lose your mojo around the things that you do so much when you've got lots going on, especially, I guess, for you as a business owner. You've got all the stuff that's going on with that as well. So I love that you've come up with something that's a little bit fun.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, I can go out, like, I can still go out for a decent run when I have the time and the energy and the desire to go, for push a few Ks more or whatever it is. But it's taken quite a long time to get back up to that wanting to push myself again. Like, I've done all sorts of different adventures. Like, we had friends and we went and did the Queen Charlotte track, and we ran that in 3 days, which I never thought I could ever do anything like that. It was way outside of my comfort zone, but I did it, and it was an incredible experience. And again, it was like not about time. It was about achieving something in the outdoors with some really good people, which is really what a lot of the things are that you talk about, getting outside and filling your happy cup. Like, those kind of things are awesome. But there's also, as life gets busy, we don't always have the time to go and do the epic adventure. But I think we forget that not everything has to be epic for us to get the benefit of that.
Yeah, I love that. That's I'm fully all for the snack adventures, snack run, snack whatever it is, because it sounds like a perfect way to just reconnect back in. So you just mentioned the Queen Charlotte. That is, tell me about that. So how did that all come about, and you decided to run it? So running is your thing. That's the stuff you love. Where were you at when you decided, hey, I'm going to run this? I'm going to go run the Queen Charlotte. And how did that all come about?
So we were actually coming down for Spirited Women in Blenheim, and I wasn't racing. We didn't have a team in this time round. And what was that, like 2-3 years ago now? Yeah, must have been. And I've always wanted to do Queen Charlotte, and I love being in the Sounds. Like, so for people listening or watching, I live in Tauranga, so I'm not anywhere near the South Island. And so, having lived there for like study and stuff like that, I really miss being in the mountains and being in nature. Like, it's just next level down South Island. So I was really keen to do it. And a friend of mine, Eve, who has, she also is a running coach, coincidentally, which is very handy when you go to sign up. So she was also keen to take part. And so I kind of roped her into it in terms of also coming and helping with Spirited Women as well. And so she got a couple of her, 3 of her run club members and friends to come along as well, because we kind of went safety in numbers, like if something
nice.
happened to one of us, we've got more people around us. We thought 2 people from a safety point of view, that kind of made both of us a little bit nervous, because all it would take is one person to have an injury and there's only one other person to kind of help get you out of a sticky situation. So there ended up being 5 of us women who did it. And I must admit, we did it glam styles. So we picked up our bags and they dropped them at the accommodation. And we carried, we had all our snacks and everything we needed for the day. But we stayed at the lodges and, we're having a gin and tonic every night. And some, it was full glam styles. So the running stuff was hard and it was beautiful. And it was just all of the amazing nature, all the different birds and stuff like that we just don't really see up here. That was so cool. And and it was a massive challenge. And so luckily Eve helped me prep heats. So I jumped onto her training programs and things like that to really work on stability and strength and core and all those kind of things that when you are doing the same action repetitively for a really long period of time, it'll get you through. So I was very grateful for her advice and support. And so she helped me with that. I think I might have had an okay level of base fitness before I thought this was good, but we also had quite a bit of time to train as well.
Yeah. So you set yourself up for a little bit of success.
Yeah. So everything was going really well until it was on the second day for us. We were coming down into the portage and it's very steep downhill. And eventually my knee just got way too angry. So I was having to sort of hobbled in on the second day. Did what I could, knowing that the last day was the shortest as well. And then basically walked anything downhill and ran the rest.
That's great though. I mean, because it's so easy to, sort of get in on that second day and have gone, oh no, my knee's too sore, I can't do it. And I'm pretty sure you would have made a sensible decision if it was really in a state that you couldn't have actually carried on. But you made the most of it and still stuck with it.
Yeah. I mean, it was never about speed, right? For me, it was really about accomplishing it and pushing myself to try and do something new and way out of my comfort zone. So I think at that point I was like, there's no way I'm not going to not finish this.
Was this your first 3-day or long distance overnight type run?
I did many moons ago, I did an ultra marathon around part of Lake Taupo. And that was all sort of tied into my mental health and getting out of the funk that I was in at the time. And I swore to myself I'd never do anything like that on road ever again, because I was a broken mess. I was just I didn't know anything. Okay, so for my sins, I am a PE student. I do have a physical education degree, and I probably should have known a lot better, but I was not a exercise prescription person. That was not my jam. I knew the basics, but knowing what I know now, I think that would have been a very different experience. But there was a lot of determination and a lot of top 2 inches that went into quite a bit of that stuff. And I think when you've done something that really pushes you physically and emotionally, you can tap back into that quite a lot easier. Have you found this?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're going and you can do that really hard thing. And then you can draw back on that way easier because you're like, oh, I did such and such and I know I could get through it. So I'm just going to tap back into that feeling and into that knowing. So, yeah.
It's like a rubber band that's been stretched. You can't unstretch it because you already know you can do it. So your brain already knows that. And I think that's where it becomes sometimes more of the mental game than anything. So unless you've got a silly, crazy injury or something like that, it really is just a lot more about talking yourself into it or keeping yourself motivated while you're out there and just like you say, tapping into those places and not pushing through in the sense of you got to push through and power on.
Yeah. Whoa.
but keeping on going.
Yeah.
I guess, with the adventure races, the Spirited Women's Adventure Race and a few of the road games and things like that I've done and stuff, it's like, that there's going to come a point where you're like, I don't really want to be doing this anymore.
Yeah.
But there's no other way to the finish line unless you just keep going.
Yeah.
So
You can't just
really
sit down. That's not the option, especially in an event. You're like, I don't want to be the person that just sat down. Like, no one wants to be that person. No one wants to be that woman. No one.
And it's like, and then I think there's, if you're doing things, especially in the group stuff, like with the run, it's like having those girlfriends in your corner that have got the same like outcomes, or they're heading in the same directions, or they want for the same thing for them and for you, which is hopefully to go out, finish, and have a great time doing it, and do something really great for themselves, and amongst hanging out with some really great gals along the way as well.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's completely it.
Cool.
And I mean, that's why you keep coming back to do events and things as well, right? So it's that community and it's that connection with people, and that's one of the reasons we keep coming back to Spirited Women, is because of that camaraderie and that connection, and in that one particular instance, it's women supporting women, right? So I think it's just, it comes back to all those values.
Yep, and that's why I keep coming back and buying more Zeenya leggings, because it's like, I want to be a part of that. I want to enjoy that color and that that camaraderie, or that friendship, or that little bit of like distinction of like, I'm not wearing plain black leggings here, girl. I've got like some color on. So
because I love it. So the inside thing that we always say is that no one compliments your black leggings.
That is accurate. That is accurate.
Like, wow, that is a really nice pair of black leggings.
That's a great pair of black leggings that you have on there. Never have I ever. And one of the other things I love about what you do, if you don't already, for the people that are hearing this, if you don't already, make sure you follow Zeenya on Instagram, because Chloe does these really great little soapbox reels or videos, whatever you want to call them. And one of the kids calling them these days. She does these great videos where she's on her soapbox and talking about what I truly believe is some really amazing topics. And I would say things that irk me about marketing, and I'm going to also say some of our own beliefs as women about who we think we should be in order to be somebody who's into the outdoors, or an outdoory girl, or an adventure person, or a runner, or a cyclist, or a climber. It's like, we are sometimes fed through marketing these beliefs on who we think we should be, and we may over time have believed media on what we either should look like, behave like, act like, be at a certain time of our lives. And I love that you talk about some of these topics, and I love that the women that you use to showcase your awesome clothing are women of all shapes, all sizes, all colors, and it makes my heart really happy. Like, I'm a size 14, 16, and to go somewhere and get color, but not just buy something that's really fun and works great for me, but to see other women in that, and all sizes and all shapes, for me feels really inspiring, because then I feel like I'm not the only one that's not a really petite person who wants to go and like buy cool stuff. I'm a girl with curves. I want to go and buy stuff, and I want to see women like that as well. I want to see all the shades of women out there, and they're doing stuff. So your soapboxes. So if you haven't tuned in, make sure you tune in for Chloe's soapboxes, and she's looking for inspiration on topics around that space.
Always. Yeah. Because the thing is, if it's irking you, it's probably irking me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I get annoyed about a lot of things, and a lot of things don't make it to the soapbox because I'm still working on how to articulate them all.
I would like to know why women's mountain bike clothing goes to an extra large, and I pretty much do not fit the bottom halves. I buy men's shorts so that I can fit them.
Yeah.
And I love to ride my mountain bike. So at the
And
moment, I
I
don't
think the
fit
interesting thing
women's bottoms.
around writing and stuff as well is like, and I've seen this in our Facebook group where people have been like, oh, I got this cool shirt. And then they're like, oh, I'm normally a size 10, but this is an XL or whatever. Is like the disparity amongst clothing sizing is just, it's really hard. Like we get people ask us, are we true to size? And I'm just like, that's such a hard question to ask. I want to say roughly yes for New Zealand body shapes.
Yes.
But the thing is, I also don't want people to feel discouraged if they're not that size in our clothing, because the thing is, like, it's, you know, it's form fitting and it's stretch clothing. So it's going to fit different on every single body shape. And you've got to find the pair and the size that works for you. Like, you know, like our sport range, so the ones with the pockets, I think you've got some of those. You know, they are a firmer fit because you've got more seams and things going on. You've got a firmer waistband, so you can load your pockets up with your phone and keys and all that kind of jazz, so you can move around. And then, so you might wear a size bigger in that than you would in our core range, because it's softer and it's not got all the extra seams and bits and pieces, you know, like it is that all day, everyday wear pair, not just the running, hiking, walking type pair, you know. So I also wanted people to I want to urge people really, like, it's okay if you don't, like, you are literally the only person that knows what size clothing you wear.
Yes.
The most important thing is it says nothing about you as a person. Not a single thing of actual importance. So, you know, whatever size you wear, whatever size I wear. So I'm now wearing a size up from what I was. So, the sad thing is that I've now got pairs in my drawer that I can't wear, and I'm not ready to get rid of them yet. Because I'm just like, I get a little bit attached to them all. But then I'm also on the other side where I'm like, it's okay to let those pairs go because that's not who I am right now.
Yeah.
And I don't want to force my body into being smaller again just so I can wear these pairs, when actually there's nothing wrong with my body, because I move it because it feels good. I do the things and care for it, not to shrink it, but so that I can feel good as a person without, you know, like, it's so hard for us in this fitness and health kind of space, because so much around exercise for women is about making themselves smaller.
Yes.
And so for me as a brand, like, I'm just thinking in terms of marketing, you know, there's always these really aspirational bodies used, and chances are they're photoshopped. Chances are that person is a professional model. And that's why we want to use real women in our imagery, because we want to show, like, you go into any given room, most people do not look like the people like we're told we should look like on the internet.
Yeah.
You know, like, there's so many, I don't know, just really so much bad messaging around health and wellness and fitness, and so much of it. And I know, I mean, we're a very similar age, so the messages we got growing up was like, I wasn't necessarily looking through the magazines to see models, but I was looking through the magazines for musicians. And so it was people like Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera, and you go back and look at those photos, their hip bones are like way out of their skin. You can see the bottom of their rib cages. They've got these clavicles that we all aspired to have. Don't ask me why. I love the idea of a dipped clavicle. There's something kind of
90s.
there.
90s vibe.
You know, 90s vibe.
Even our eyebrows were skinny.
You know, crop tops, all that sort of stuff. And like, was looking at that stuff, and I'm like, my body was never going to look like that. But there wasn't anyone showing me an alternative at the time. So I guess for our brand, it's making sure that all of us wounded 30, 40, 50-year-olds from having these like crappy images forced at us are finding a place now where our body shapes are seen and we're recognized for being well and healthy at all these different sizes.
Yeah, and I I love that because I'm 45 now, and I am definitely getting into that perimenopausal stage, and so my body has changed so differently in the last, I would say, year. At like that's changed dramatically, and I've had to make some really radical changes about how I look at myself, because for a long period of time I was judging my size on like who I was as a person, and am I really this adventurous girl if I'm not how I used to look?
Mm,
But with this age has come a lot more accepting of like, this is my shape, and as long as I'm eating well, like just eating healthy food, I'm getting out and I'm doing things that I love, I'm moving around, then what more is there of me? Like I
yeah.
am still this like really super rad person, even though I'm not the size that I used to be. And
And
it's
I
been a
think
huge
it's,
adjustment.
yeah,
So,
you're right. It's a massive adjustment, especially because,
mm,
like, you know, I mean, we've talked about it a bit in our Facebook group every so often, and
mm,
we haven't discussed it for quite a while. But you know, like people saying like, I want my body to look like it did when I was 20. Well, you don't have a 20-year-old metabolism. Like, truth is,
yeah.
that's not ever going to happen again. Not through, you know, because like you say, you go through, you know, people have kids, you go through perimenopause, you go through menopause, and then everything changes all again. So,
Yeah.
like, the only thing that I think is really constant, especially as we get older, is our body's changing, and we've got to be grateful for it because we want to be, you know, like, I don't want to waste my life worrying
Mm,
about what I looked like in the mirror for someone else's gain, which isn't mine.
yeah. And that energy could be spent doing so much more for
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
massive opportunity cost when women in general spend way too much time worrying about what we look like, what size we are, how much we weigh, all of that stuff. Like,
Mm,
because we're kept small in terms of our bodies, we're kept small in terms of our thought capacity. There's like this massive opportunity cost for what we could be putting out into the world, the love we could be giving, you know, the care to ourselves, to our family, to
mm,
our friends. That gets lost because we're distracted
mm.
with the messaging that doesn't serve us, doesn't serve women at all. So, oh my God, I shouldn't even get on my soapbox.
You need your soapbox, sister.
So,
I
okay, so
follow
if
some.
you haven't seen it, I do have to say that it's not actually a soapbox, it's a swap a crate box.
It
And
is a crate. Let's
um,
just keep that real.
yeah, so it says soapbox, but it's really crate box. So,
Feels very Kiwi. Hmm.
yeah, I was like, I don't have an actual soapbox, and who puts soap in boxes anyway? So we're gonna,
And this is exactly why I was super excited to get you on today's podcast, because I really love that we get to talk about these topics and share these stories, and just, I guess, hopefully if you're listening to this and it's a message that is ringing true for you, I guess from my perspective, I want you to know that you're flipping perfect the way you are. Like, you don't have to change a damn thing about yourself. And sure, if you want to get healthier or move more or do anything like that, cool, but do it for all the right reasons, and not for the reasons that you think you need to be this person in order to have the best version of your life.
yeah,
So whatever that looks like for you, that's what I want you to know. I think you're perfect the way that you are. So there's some amazing, I follow a couple of great women ultra marathon runners from overseas. And one of the things I realized when I moved from Auckland, must be 4 years ago, is, in totally my perspective, not saying that everybody in Auckland is like this is just my version of it, is like everyone went to the gym, everyone looked great. Like, there's lots of great looking bodies in Auckland, very general speaking, totally my perception. And then I moved to Christchurch, and the people that are out on the hills, the people that are out on the mountains, the people that are out climbing and doing all this stuff, the age diversity and the way that they looked, you would never know how accomplished that person is in the outdoors if I took what they look like at face value to be who I thought back when I was like that doing that that's the kind of person. It's you can never can tell. So I think it's just a little
No.
too easy to put ourselves into, or try to put ourselves into a box of what we think we should or shouldn't look like.
Yeah.
And that,
I mean, it's
so
exhausting. Like, if we're really honest, like, I used to spend so much time worrying about that stuff.
yeah.
Like, I remember, and I spent so much effort in, like, in my 20s trying to hide away because, like, so I do have the privilege of being a thin white woman. Do you know what I mean? Like, so there is already, I just exist in that world with that body. And I remember just trying to, like, I worked in sport, so it was like track pants, jackets, big oversized stuff, because I didn't want my body having attention called to it for the wrong reasons, and I think that's something that I've had to learn over a long time. Was like, so a little origin story for the Zeenya crew on this one is when before the company was started, my friend that I started the company with, her and I traveled to Brazil, and she brought all these beautiful coloured pairs, and I brought a pair for my mum and for another friend, and I was always black. I was like, black is a funeral for my fat. I don't want to be seen. I don't want to be recognised. I don't want any attention. I just want to go out and be in my like bubble for exercise, and I don't want to connect. I just needed to like not be seen. I wanted to do my thing, but not be seen doing it. And I branched out when we were in Brazil, and I bought a grey pair of leggings, and I have kept leggings because they are the most terrible thing known to man, and no one should ever wear grey leggings because all I can say to you is sweat marks. And it's just not pretty. It's just not pretty.
Fact.
Fact, not nice. So also, great reason to wear printed activewear is you can't tell sweat marks because there's so much happening. There's no sweat marks going on. That's a massive bonus. You'd have to sweat an awful lot for there to be any recognition. And I can tell you that, having done Spirited Women and all those kind of things, and run for days in my activewear, I can tell you that sweat marks are not a problem anymore. But like, I think it's taken me a long time to accept my body and feel like when I move in the world, people aren't judging me for it. Like, we always put way more judgment on ourselves than we do on others. So, and everyone's so, we're all so self-obsessed generally that you just, if you like the thing, wear the thing. It doesn't matter whether it's, activewear or not. If you want to wear the colour because it makes you feel good, wear the thing.
Well, I want to thank you for like bringing all that colour to the place, because you would have impacted probably more women than you realise by being so transparent and so authentic in your brand. And I think there's a lot that a lot of other brands out there can learn from you in the way that you encourage and inspire all types of women to get out and be active. So and I remember when we spoke a little bit earlier, you mentioned that you just said your mum earlier, and I was like, oh, that's right. Didn't you guys just do something recently? Your mum, she's 70?
Yeah, so she'll probably tell me off for saying this, but so mum turned 70 at the end of last year. And
go mum.
I know, I'm so proud of her. And so for in February this year, she did her first ever adventure race. So the night before, we jumped on our bikes in the car park in Rotorua, and I was teaching her how to bunny hop off a curb as a nice little tidbit before we went out for the short course. I have to say,
70, go mum.
No, and there was another group of older ladies that were sitting around as well, and they were like, oh, this is quite helpful. So there you go. If you're teaching one person, you're probably teaching more than one. And so she was pretty nervous. I think I spent my entire night praying that I would not kill my mother the next day. I nearly did. She did go off one of the mountain bike tracks because, so we did the short course, And I've done quite a few different spirited women, and I have to say that the riding, because we were in the redwoods, was quite technical in places for newbies. And I'm not a super confident mountain biker. It's not something I get to do very often. And I'm good on my brakes and I can hold my balance, and that's all good. But we did have to go down a grade 3 trail.
Wow, that's a stretch for an intro course or beginner course.
Short course. Yeah. And so we didn't tell her. She did great. She just, my teammates were also a massive shout out to Stace and Bones for being so good with me and my mum. Like, we just set a really great pace together. We had Stace leading us on the mountain bike, and she just, she did it at a really awesome speed that everybody could keep up. So mum did this huge climb up to the top, and we stopped, put some food in her, kept going, all of us snacking away on the side of the road. We just pulled over because we were not in this to win this. We were just about achieving. We were just wanting to get to the finish line. And so we came around this corner, and I took off down the hill after Stace, and then my mum came next, and I just hear this scream from behind me, and she just about went off. She went off the side of the track, but because we'd had that huge cyclone come through, there were so many leaves and trees and bits and pieces that she didn't actually go down the bank, thank goodness. But I just turned around and saw her, and I just screamed at her to grab the pine tree. And she's told me that she was already gunning for the tree just to grab it. And so she grabbed onto this tree. And so I was like, don't move. And I'm pulling huge chunks of pine tree out of her spokes and out of her gears, and oh my God. And so, but the thing is then, of course, that knocked her confidence a bit. She was doing pretty well up until that point. And then we just had to kind of slog through. But it's like that, you go to that place, right, where you can do a hard thing, and you just muscle it out, because that's the only way you can get off that particular place. You can't sit down. So she did amazing. And we definitely got to the point where her and I were like, get me the hell off this bike. It was a very long bike ride. I think we ended up out there like 4.5, 5 hours. And then it was off to do the trek, which was way more in everyone's comfort zone, except for so at 70, she experienced cramp the first time in an event or out for a hike. So we were shoving cramp stuff, lollies and chews and stuff into her. But she is really, really proud of herself, and I'm really proud of her, because she's never done anything like that in her life. She's never done a mountain bike race. She's done events half marathons, walks, and things like that. So she's been active for a really long time. Like, you put the woman on Papamoa Hills and up she goes, and she blitzes it, 2 or 3 times a week at the moment. And so I knew the trek wasn't ever going to be a problem. But yeah, I was just really grateful I didn't kill my mum, and she came back in one piece. And I think she would do another one if the riding's not as technical. It was very much the next day, it was like, I'm never doing this again. And she said she was trying to sleep that night, but her life just kept flashing before her eyes as she walked off the bank over and over and over. So, I think there's a really special thing that spirited women do at their prize giving, and they get people to stand up in their ages. And I think you started this. And then, if you're under a certain age, you sit down, and you under this age and you sit down. And to look around the room and still have my mum standing at 70 plus, with a couple of others, was pretty amazing, and it's really inspiring for people as well to see that, our life doesn't finish at 50 or 60. We can still take on adventures, and we can still try new things.
Yeah. Well, I think your mum's I've met your mum a couple of times now. I just think she's so inspirational. She's such a beautiful woman, and I can see where you get, a lot of your good, like the beautiful qualities that you are from her. So,
and she works for me too. And guess what I'm making her do for Mother's Day? I'm going to make her work.
What's that?
We've got an event, so she's working. Mother's Day, Mum.
Happy Mother's. We're going to spend the day together.
Yeah, doing my thing.
Making other women's dreams come true. Oh, that's amazing. So tell me about what's one thing that you've tried that you think you would never try again in terms of adventures?
Oh, I'm not a super fan of jumping off things.
Oh yeah.
I can be up high as long as I don't have to launch myself off
Yeah.
it. So I'm always very nervous for a Spirited Women mystery activity. So we came down to the first South Island one in Alexandra, and we had to jump off a cliff. And we were all standing there. One of our team members was crying because she hates it as much as I did. And they went 3, 2, 1, and 2 of our team jumped, and 2 of us stayed on the cliff. And it was very hard to launch myself off that. I am not a fan of heights, like in terms of jumping off stuff. So I did it, and that's fine, but I despise it with all my heart.
I know the exact thing you're talking about because I had 2 team members who didn't jump because they were like, nah. And then me and my other teammate, we went up and we were behind a team who had 2 of them, 3 of them jumped and 1 didn't. And she was left up there by herself. So I was like, right, we're jumping together. And I looked once to see where I was going. And then I was like, you just have to jump when they say jump, because I was like, I'm not, there's no way I can look down. And then I've got a girlfriend took a photo from the side view, and like we're like falling and we're like this, and it's like epic. You can see how tall it is. And the front photos are like this. I am absolutely shitting my pants. Like my face looks terrified. And so you get the side view and it looks epic. It's the whole like what Instagram is and what reality is.
Yeah.
Instagram, look at me, I jumped off this building. It's so amazing.
So
Front
amazing.
face view, shitting my pants. I just think it's just the most hilarious. I was pumped, super stoked like you when I did it. But yeah, oh my God, yeah, that was absolutely wild.
Oh God, there was so much water up my nose, like I can feel it. Like
I totally thought I looked really amazing in those pictures. They just look like, oh, hilarious. I have to dig them out sometimes.
They were the funniest pictures. They were some of the funniest pictures I've ever seen.
Yeah, my face just looked mortified, like I was going to die.
It's not natural. Your body does not.
You're supposed to jump off things like that.
Other people absolutely love it. Like, I don't know. Like one of our ambassadors, she thrives on all of that sort of stuff. And I'm just like, no, thank you. She's like, yo, you need to come down and do this thing. And I'm like, no, thank you.
It's so good though. Like you said, like that speaks back into what you were saying earlier about, you can't not know that you can't not do that thing because you already can do that thing. So it's like, I know I can jump off that, and it's really because we did. And if I'm ever going to go do anything like that again, it's like, it's not because I can't, because I can. It's just, where's my head at with needing to do something like that.
Yeah.
But also, like, if I'm trying to do something else, it's like, well, you jumped off that really tall thing, so you can do that other thing as well. So you got this, sister.
Yeah, you got to psych yourself into it.
Yeah. So what is it that you think that makes it so different for like adventuring with your girlfriends rather than going out with mates or buddies or guy friends and stuff? What makes it different for you when you go adventuring just with women?
I mean, I have a good friend that we haven't done it for a while because I have not been doing bigger distances, but we used to meet all the time and go for runs in the Redwoods. So she lives in Hamilton, or she lives there still. And we meet and go for a bit of a trail run, like a run venture, we used to call them, because if we got lost, it would become more of an adventure than a run. And we've done a few of those and gone, where are we? But I think the thing that
especially at the Redwoods as well.
Yeah. And you got to make sure you don't go onto mountain bike tracks. It's very important. You do get yelled at, yes, and run over. It's not good. It's not a good time. And I think one of the things that I really like about it, and like I think the trail community in general is really supportive. I think road running and that kind of stuff is not really a space for me because I don't get into the whole timed thing. And so I guess it doesn't really matter the gender of the people I'm running with. as long as we're there to get to where we're going and to have some fun on the way. Because to me, like, it's not about what time you did in a certain segment, although sometimes it's fun to look on Strava and see how you're going, or, you know, when you get a, what are they, the little achievement things. But
Mountain biking, it's
it's
QOM.
what's that?
Oh, mountain biking, if you're like fastest down the trail, is QOM, Queen of the Mountain.
Oh, yeah, yeah. See, I'm not worried about any of that status, and so for me, I've got to be with people who don't have that mindset, because
Nice.
I'm never going to be that person. Like, I'm quite comfortable with the fact that I'm never going to be a top racer in anything, because I'm not. That's not where my joy is.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I'm also not built for that. I'm built for participation, and I'm quite happy with it. You know, yeah, it doesn't do anything for me to be hyper competitive in physical activity. And hyper competitive in cards, yes, but yeah, not so much when it comes to the physical activity stuff. It does not float my boat. And that's the thing, like we said earlier, it is what drives you. You know, like, you find the thing that drives you. If you love being competitive, hell yes, go for it, give it everything. If you're like secretly gunning for a top 10 finish, put your foot down and go for it. But if that's not why you're there, your reason for being there is just as valid.
Absolutely. 100% agree. I think that's why it's like, it's so important to recognize what you want to get out of when you're going out, because sometimes you do want to go out and get up the hill faster, or sometimes you want to push yourself. But it doesn't mean that every session that you want to go out and do something, do an adventure or go exploring, that it has to be that or nothing. It's that snack stuff that you're talking about. Sometimes it's just about getting out and moving, and that's just as important for your mental headspace than it is about making those improvements or getting better or anything like that. I think it's just as important for that. So
yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, all the stuff that we do with our girlfriends, or our, you know, or other women that we might meet along the way and then eventually become friends with, right? Like, those bonds are really different to the types of bonds that I think you get in some workplaces and stuff. I don't know, there's something about bonding with people in the outdoors that to me feels spacious, and like, both figuratively and literally, and grounded and connected, that in a lot of other places, you know, where competition is potentially apparent, especially, like, I don't know, it's probably another soapbox actually, now that I think of it, but you know how
she's like taking notes.
Yeah, I'm like, no, here's my note for our next soapbox. But it's like the idea that women should be competing against each other for things, when really what we should be doing is lifting each other up.
I think for me, I think that's why I love going. I mean, it's great going with the guys sometimes, like if I want to get pushed, or and I get to be honest, I get the same with riding some of my girlfriends, or going out with some of my girlfriends if they want to go on the trails and stuff. But there's a difference when you're still going out with women, that there's a real sort of encouragement kind of with doing that we're there to support each other for, like I said, I think we said at the beginning, whatever the outcome is that you want for that thing that you're going to go do, whether it's an adventure race or you're just going out up the hill, that it's like, it's just sometimes an opportunity to connect and be seen and feel heard and all that kind of stuff, just hanging out with your girlfriends, talking about just whatever, because it tends to be a lot less judgmental and a lot more nurturing and supporting. The banter for me is just as important as the location and the snacks.
Absolutely.
The food I take, the people I hang out with, and the banter, because good banter makes any adventure just that bit more epic. I really do. I really just go for the snacks and the banter. I want to come back with great stories, good pictures, and just be like, I got outside, I've moved around a bit. Maybe I went to a new place. There's just for me, there's so much of New Zealand to see, and I don't think we can really see I'll never have enough days in my life to be able to see all the places that I want to see in New Zealand, but I'm going to have a good crack at getting around and
Yeah.
going and
No,
seeing all the different places that we can get to.
absolutely. Yeah. And that's the thing. And it's
Yeah.
like, that's in some ways been the good thing about COVID is like those adventures. Like New Zealanders, I think, have typically seen a lot more of our own country because we couldn't travel the same way. We're such good travellers in a general sense. We do want to see new things and broaden our horizons, but it's been really cool to see people doing that a lot more in New Zealand. And hopefully it continues because, there's still a lot, like you say, there's still a lot to see.
Yeah, I just recently did a 2-week holiday after the last Spirit of Women's. I know we keep talking about it because that's the thing that we connect up on quite a bit. And I finally went to the Franz Josef Glacier for the first time in my whole life. Thank you. And I also ended up all the way up to the Heaphy track, which again I've never been to. So yeah, I just walked over to the Scott's Beach and back. I think it was either 30 minutes or an hour each way. I couldn't remember, but
so beautiful.
It actually leans into what you're talking about with those your snack stuff, that it's like, this was my holiday. I just wanted to go out and do stuff. I didn't care whether I didn't make grand plans to go and walk 800 miles a day or something like that. I just wanted to go and be immersed in it. And if I got to a location and I wanted to carry on, I would. So yeah, it was just, it's such a beautiful way to see the country. And I even managed to like do a little bit of the St. James Walkway on the way back through, which I've driven past so many times. And I was only going to stop and do the nature walk. And then I got there and I was like, well, you're kind of here already, so you may as well just go and see what else is out there. And I ended up going down and finding this epic bridge. And I don't know, it's great. So are there any places on your New Zealand adventure list that you could visit time and time again? Have you got 2 places that you could you could just visit all the time?
I mean, I love going up into Northland because it's just the most chill vibe. And it's so vast. Like every time I go up there, I'm like, oh, I want to go to that. Oh, I should have gone there. Oh, I want to go out to that one. And I'm fortunate to have friends up there that I can go and stay with. And I mean, you can't beat stuff just being in the mountains, being back in Wanaka and in that area was just, it's my happy place. I feel so chill when I'm in the mountains.
Yeah. So what would be, as we sort of start to wind this up, what would be 3 pieces of advice that you would like your 18-year-old self to know now, having gone through life the way you have and where you've gotten to with who you are and how you feel about yourself? If you could give your 18-year-old self some advice about life,
I would tell her,
what would that be?
I would tell her to stop worrying about the shape of your body and focus on what it can do. What else would I tell my 18-year-old self? She already knew she was quite capable, but I think she held back. So don't hold back. If people can't handle all parts of you, they're not your people. Do you know what I mean? Like in terms of, I feel like I shrunk myself down in lots of different ways so that I would fit in. But I don't really know what I was fitting into. Like if I think about it, what was I really fitting into? Someone else's perception, or who I thought other people wanted me to be. Which, if we could all get through that way faster and unpack that whole thing, or just not even have it come up, which would be my ideal for young people coming through, is not even getting to the point where you are performing, really, because that's what it is for other people.
Yeah.
Like if you didn't have to feel like you had to look a certain way or dress a certain way or sound a certain way, any of these things, like if you didn't have to do all that, man, there's just you're on a hot seat, you're away because you're not spending your time worrying about these things or second guessing yourself.
Yeah.
Was that 3 things?
Beautiful. Love it. I'm going to just note that down for myself and just remind that to myself even
So
these days.
what would 50-year-old Senka be proud of you for? That's always a nice thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one other piece of advice you might give yourself.
What's that, sorry?
And any other pieces of advice that you'd give your 18-year-old self? One more beautiful piece of advice.
Do the adventure. Say yes to going on the adventure. Don't double think it too hard. Just go for it.
Love it. Love it. Chloe, you're amazing.
You're amazing. This has been so much fun.
Oh, I knew we were going to have great conversations. I knew the banter was going to be good, but I feel like for me this is like the most epic way to kick off season 2 of the She Adventures New Zealand podcast, because there's some really beautiful topics that mean a lot to me as well and amongst here. And I think what you are doing with Zeenya and who you are and what the impact that you're creating in the world through what you do is really just a beautiful thing. So feel very privileged to have had you on the podcast and for you to share your amazing messages. I think the advice to your 18-year-old self is advice that I would need to take on every now and again for me as the 45-year-old woman that I am today. So thank you so much for sharing that with all of us.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been a massive pleasure. And yeah, I look forward to seeing more of your colourful adventures.
You got it. So for anyone who wants to connect up with you to hear your soapbox, or if they've got something that irks them in that space and they think that you should be getting up on your soapbox, where's the best place for them to reach out to you?
So you can either reach me on email, and so that's hello@zeenya.co.nz, or Instagram seems to be better for messaging than Facebook. Facebook's up the wazoo, and sometimes I don't see messages. So yeah, one of those two places is the best place. And I love hearing people's rants, because chances are if you're upset about it, someone else is. So yeah, hit me with your rants, people. Let's do it. Solve the world's problems, even if we can't. We'll just talk about them.
And what's your one message you have for women out there who want to have some more fun and adventure in their lives, but they're too afraid to take that next step?
I say don't overthink it and do it in short bursts, because if you think, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this massive thing, I have to train to get there, just focus on the little step that comes next, knowing that you'll get there. Because chances are when most of us start off something or hit the start line of an event, we all feel woefully unprepared, unless you're an elite athlete, and that's what you're paid to do. So you are going to probably feel woefully unprepared regardless. So just do the work, take the steps, and get it done.
Love it. That's perfect. All right, Chloe, thank you so much. You take care of yourself.
Thanks,
and we'll look forward to you bringing some more fun and some colour in our community. Thanks for listening to the She Adventures New Zealand podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd be super stoked if you'd help me get this message out and connected to as many listeners as possible by sharing it on your socials and tagging She Adventures NZ. And of course, to make sure you know when the next exciting episode arrives, be sure to subscribe and you'll be notified as soon as it drops. Till then, remember, get outdoors, fill your happy tank, and do the things that matter, because life is better when you do.